Welcome, beautiful souls, to another enlightening journey on our channel. Today, we delve into the profound wisdom shared by the insightful Christina von Dreien. In our fast-paced world, raising our vibration might seem like a daunting task. But fear not, for Christina simplifies this process beautifully. She reminds us that at its core, elevating our vibration is a journey of the heart. Join us as we explore the transformative power of being in tune with our hearts and surrounding ourselves with positivity. Christina gracefully guides us through these essential points, showing us how effortlessly we can raise our vibration and manifest our highest potential. In principle, increasing your vibration is not complicated. Nevertheless, it may be helpful to mention a few points. Let's take a closer look at some of them. It says, for example, be in your heart. That's actually enough. It's really not complicated at all. When we're in our heart, when we're well, and when we're happy, then our vibration increases automatically. If we surround ourselves with things and people that do us good, then again our vibration increases automatically. This is the main point. Another very good way to increase our vibration is to follow our soul path. As soon as you follow your soul path and accept and fulfill the learning processes that are waiting for you, nothing can actually go wrong. Your soul has created a specific timetable for your current incarnation. It knows when the right time has come for which particular experience. Your spirit guide also knows this timetable, and you can trust your guide to make sure that you follow your soul path. Your spiritual team is like a navigation device, with whose help you will always reach your destination in the end, irrespective of whether you choose the direct way or make a detour. If, when following your life's path, you've somehow managed to get onto the wrong track, your spirit guide will say, please turn around. And maybe someday your route will be recalculated. Sometimes on our way through life, we also encounter things that are unpleasant at first. Have you experienced that? Sometimes we undergo things that aren't particularly nice in the moment, but at some point we realize why they were good for us nonetheless. This can either become clear to us already in the middle of the event, or else, certainly at a later point. Ultimately, everything that is happening right now in our lives, and everything that has been before, and everything that will be in the future has a good reason. We either see this already while it's happening or else afterwards, no matter how much time it may take. At some point, we realize that actually everything was good and right and relevant, exactly the way it happened. There's always something positive in every life situation. There's no other possibility. The universe has known about everything that ever happened to you before it came into your life. And the universe let it into your life. That means it was right. The universe builds on experience. Every single incarnation we went through before our present incarnation was put together in such a way as to enable us to experience and develop everything we needed in order to be exactly where we are today. Our entire past prepared us for our present, and our entire present prepares us for our future. For example, when you as a soul are planning your next life, you might want to get to point X at some point to experience something in particular, or to encounter a certain situation. At the same time, you realize that things would go wrong if you moved to point X immediately and experience this situation in your present state of consciousness. So for your next life, you choose everything you need to encounter in the meantime, before you get to point X and can experience what you wanted to experience. When you do then arrive at point X and encounter the desired situation, nothing will go wrong, because that's just the way you planned it. This means that whenever you encounter a problem or an obstacle on your life's path, you can be sure that the help or information you need will either still come, or that, in the past, you've already acquired the experience and the information on which you can build. If your soul wants to experience something specific, and you've planned this experience into your soul path, then it will definitely happen, and nothing in the world will be able to prevent it. However, we may only recognize the higher meaning in some events and experiences later, only when we look back. But we will always find it, sooner or later. Globally, this means that as long as there are human beings who want conditions on this earth to change for the better, it will happen. The questions are simply, when will it happen? How fast will it happen? And what will happen between now and the time of change? These questions may be open, but one thing is certain, the change will take place. The question of work and profession is also important in connection with your soul path. You not only earn your living through the work you do, it also keeps you busy for about 5 out of 7 days a week. Therefore, it's important that you choose a profession that is consistent with what your soul wants and what it has planned for this incarnation. This may require you making the one or the other change in your outer life, but it's worth it because the most important thing at all times is that you are yourself, that you live your soul. We all came here to leave individual traces behind us. We didn't come here to just walk around like remote-controlled robots. But don't put yourselves under pressure with regard to this either. Just take the time that's necessary to bring about any possible change in your working life. It's good to have heard about this now, so that you can start moving step by step in this direction. Another way to increase your vibration is to forgive, love, be grateful and accept. To meet other people and other living beings in general with love, compassion and acceptance. To accept them as they are and to forgive their shortcomings. All this leads immediately to an increase in vibration. These are all qualities of our heart and not of our head. They unfold as soon as we are in our heart and listen to our heart. This, of course, doesn't mean we should just chuck our brains out of the window, because we need both heart and brains. The point is to find a harmonious balance between these two energies. In everyday life, there are many things we have to analyse or plan with the help of our reason, and we should be glad, therefore, that we do have a rational mind. But it shouldn't simply be allowed to do what it wants. It should be subordinated to the heart instead. The mind tends to think and weigh up everything too much. Is that at all possible? What it but could? Such considerations on the part of the mind are sometimes useful and important, but sometimes they also get in the way and prevent us from being spontaneous. Depending on the situation, we should listen to the mind or not, as the case may be. Another way to increase your vibration is to be an optimist. If we look at things in our lives in a positive and optimistic way, we support the increase in our vibration. It also helps us not to immediately view any particular state of affairs as a problem. If we see a particular situation in our life as a problem, it's mostly because we feel unable to cope with this situation, or because we have no idea how to deal with it, or what to do now. Actually, there are no problems at all, they're all simply situations. Whether we see a situation or a state of affairs as a problem or not is always a question of our perspective and consciousness. We only perceive a particular state of affairs as a problem if the frequency of our consciousness is at the same level or below the frequency of that state of affairs. But the moment we succeed in increasing our personal vibration and elevating it above the vibration of the state of affairs in question, the situation is still there, but we have a different perspective on it. We no longer perceive the same situation as a problem, but as an opportunity. Imagine, for example, a house where the 3rd floor is on fire. As long as we run around on the 3rd floor, trying to extinguish the fire from there, we'll find no solution. If we run up the stairs to the 4th floor, however, we might find an enormous fire extinguisher. This gives us a solution to the problem on the 3rd floor. Being an optimist and thinking and acting in a solution-oriented way helps us, in terms of vibration, to rise above challenging conditions. The circumstances may still be the same, but we gain a different perspective and a different basis for action. We either see solutions immediately, or are at least confident that solutions will come along soon. If we believe there is no solution to a particular problem, then things aren't going to improve. The situation won't improve, nor will we feel any better personally. If we're convinced that there is a positive solution that either already exists or is going to come along soon, then it's easier for us to be constructive in the given situation and make the right decisions. Even if a particular situation doesn't change, an optimist within that situation will definitely be better off than a pessimist. That's reason enough to be an optimist. Another good reason for being an optimist is the following. As optimists, we recognise meaning in our own lives and in life in general, and as soon as we see meaning behind things, we're filled both with the conviction that the world can get better and with the desire to change things. The world can only change for the better if human beings have hope and confidence. We're shown the worst in newspapers, on television and also on the internet, and that could easily cause us to become pessimists. But as optimists, we know that according to cosmic law, there must be something light-filled wherever there is darkness. It's therefore up to us to consciously look for the light-filled and let it into our lives. We can also increase our vibration by harmonizing the land and the sky. The personal vibration that goes out from each of us is made up of various components. At the same time, whether we perceive this consciously or not, our level of vibration is also affected by various external factors. Every town, every region, every country, even every single building and every room has its own vibration too, its own energy. This means that where we are also influences our personal vibration. It therefore makes sense to pay attention to how good the vibration around us is, because this affects our consciousness. Of course, when it comes down to it, we are the ones responsible for our own vibration at all times and not our environment. Our environment provides us with certain triggers, but what they trigger within us is individual and depends on our own patterns and conditioning. As for the sky, you may have noticed that some days it looks like there's a kind of grid of white stripes across the sky. These are what people call chemtrails, and I don't think that's a concoction, but something real that's neither good for us human beings nor for the earth. A while ago I saw grids like that in the sky at home and wondered how they could be removed to purify and harmonize the sky. I found a number of tips on the internet, but they were all too complicated or too tedious, and in some cases too expensive because there were things you had to buy to be able to do it. I thought to myself, having a pure, clear sky that is natural and unpolluted should be one of our birthrights as human beings, and if something is a birthright or a fundamental right, it should be available free of charge, and it should be yours without any great effort on your part. I therefore carried on searching, and at some point I found information on a construction called the 9-element vortex, which cost nothing and promised to actually clear the sky. I went into the forest, picked up some branches and built a wooden vortex in our garden like the one described. Although I decided on a 7-element vortex, meaning a construction made of 7 branches. To my great joy, as soon as I'd laid the last branch, the sky cleared straight away and was completely purified and neutralized again. The vortex had built up an energy field that dissolved the white stripes, so that the sky returned to its normal deep dark blue. When I saw that the vortex worked beautifully, I thought, well, problem solved, and I turned back to other things. The effect lasted exactly 3 days. During this time, the white stripes were dissolved repeatedly, and the sky was always this deep blue colour. After these 3 days, it suddenly didn't work anymore, and the sky was as pale as it had been before. At first, I didn't understand why, but then I realised that the vortex wasn't working. The reason why the construction had seemed to work had nothing to do with either the wood, or the shape, or the size, or any other aspect of the vortex. The reason had been solely my thoughts, solely my faith. As I was laying the vortex, I'd had my mind set on harmonising the sky, and because I'd believed in it, it had worked. The energy field that the vortex had built up, as well as its function to dissolve the white stripes, had only come about because I'd built the vortex with precisely that intention in mind. Suppose there's a glass of water standing in front of us. We can observe that the water changes depending on what we say to it. The same applies to plants. They also react to our thoughts and words. It's the same with the sky. As soon as we focus our attention on something, we put our energy into it, and we automatically exert influence on whatever we send our energy to. With the 7 elements vortex, the effect lost its power after 3 days because I'd taken my attention off that subject again, assuming it would now work automatically. It's like pouring a certain amount of fuel into a vehicle. The vehicle will drive as long as the fuel lasts, then it'll stop. In the same way, the vortex worked only as long as the residual energy of my attention, my thought energy, continued to have an effect. The vortex itself had no special powers, but only acted as a kind of thought amplifier. In principle, the effect would have been the same if I'd made the vortex very small, or if I'd laid it in different form, or even if I hadn't built it at all. The insight I gained from this incident was, we often make ourselves out to be smaller than we are. We think we're so small and the sky is so big and so far away. We think we can't make a difference, but we forget how powerful our beliefs and thoughts are. The vortex just worked because I wanted it to. Compared to the size of the sky, we may have small physical bodies, but there is an immense energy in our consciousness, so great that we can hardly imagine it. The vortex showed me that we human beings have so much more power in us than we allow ourselves to believe. If I'd had doubts from the beginning, and had thought, well, it probably won't work anyway, then it most likely wouldn't have worked. But because I believed in it and focused my attention on it, it worked. As soon as we're firmly convinced of something, all our conscious and unconscious blockades against it will dissolve. Then a great deal is possible. That's why they say faith can move mountains. In our neighbourhood, there was a little girl who always laid the table for her invisible friend, too. I think it's important that parents take this seriously and don't say, "You have too much imagination," or "You've probably seen too many films because there are no invisible friends," or something like that, as if they know it all. On the contrary, particularly nowadays, there are many children who can teach adults something. Maturity of soul doesn't depend on the age of the physical body. There are 80-year-olds who've understood fewer learning processes in their lives than 14-year-olds. So the question is not how old someone is physically, but how much experience someone has already had, and above all, how much that person has learned from it. Maturity of soul therefore doesn't depend on how long someone's been in this world in total, and how many incarnations they've already gone through during this time. Old souls are not necessarily mature souls. It has to do with how much a soul has already learned. Some souls learn more in 5 incarnations than others do in 10. Just because someone's been here 100 times doesn't mean they've understood more than someone who's been here 10 times. It's about quality, not quantity. I think it's important for parents and children to meet at eye level. Every person has something that they've already understood and can pass on to others, and everyone also has something that they haven't yet understood and can receive from others. But we can learn better from each other if we don't immediately reject things we've never heard of before. Just because you haven't heard of something, or experienced it yourself, or just because you can't consciously perceive something, doesn't mean it doesn't exist in the world. If we increase our vibration, our worldview also expands. Suddenly there's space in our worldview for much more than we'd ever previously imagined. The opposite is also true. The moment we change our perspective on the world and consciously open our worldview to something new, our vibration increases automatically. New things are being integrated into our everyday vibration all the time, and through this integration our individual vibration either decreases or increases. This is something that happens constantly and automatically. We really don't have to worry about that. It just happens without us having to do anything about it. We just need to make sure that we surround ourselves as much as possible with positive things and that we enjoy our lives. Another way to increase your vibration is by doing chakra work. There are no chakras that are better or worse than any others, none that are more useful or less useful. We need them all. What we still carry within us in the way of programs and patterns from our current and previous incarnations, as well as those from our line of ancestors, causes blockages in our chakras too. Once we've managed to release these things and purify our soul, energy can again flow more easily through our chakras. We can call this process chakra work. By the way, we human beings have chakras both within our body and above and below our physical body, and each of our chakras has its own vibration. Since the chakras work together and need each other, we can only unfold certain chakras if other chakras are also unfolded. The upper chakras need the lower ones, and the lower ones need the upper ones. Because of this, all of them are equally important and equally useful. It's difficult to describe what chakras look like in words. They're open on both sides and look like funnels. Can you imagine that? A chakra usually looks like a funnel that is open at the front and the back. However, a fully active chakra radiates in all directions and takes on the shape of a sphere. The different energy bodies are formed out of these chakras, irrespective of whether they're funnel-shaped or spherical. But that's a different subject. Thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey of self-discovery and empowerment. We hope you found inspiration and guidance in Christina von Dreien's profound teachings on raising our vibration. Remember, the power to elevate ourselves lies within each of us. Let's continue to nurture our hearts surround ourselves with positivity, and embrace the beauty of simplicity in our lives. If you resonated with today's message, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more transformative content. Together, we can create a ripple effect of love and light that extends far beyond our screens. As always, stay tuned for upcoming videos filled with wisdom, insight, and practical tips for living your best life. Until next time, may your journey be filled with joy, abundance, and the ever-expanding light of your radiant soul. With love and gratitude, Cosmic Mysteries Channel,